Hi everybody, Anthony here from CrazyTechLab, and today we have a brand new slim fan to look at for your small form factor builds out there. It is the Akasa Alucia XS12. So this is the second slim fan from Akasa, which is also known as Roswell in the US, or at least a company called Roswell uses the exact same fan, which we found in my recent group test, and it was pretty decent. So I'm very, very excited to see what performance we've got from Akasa's second slim fan, not least of all because it can hit 2000 RPM on the RPM rating, so it's reasonably powerful, at least as far as the numbers go. So what we're going to be doing today is putting it through our full fan test suite of tests to see how it compares in terms of airflow, noise, efficiency, and value. Speaking of value, this thing is reasonably expensive in the US. It's around $30, unless we can maybe find the equivalent Roswell fan. It's fairly distinctive because it's got these blue fan blades. I'm assuming that if there is an equivalent Roswell version, that this thing will appear in the images and be very distinctive. So that's definitely worth looking out for. Looking down my list, it's also pretty expensive here in the UK, £34 if you get it from Amazon. But if you go to Case King in Europe, I think they also ship to the UK. You can get it for just €13, which is about the same in pounds. So via Germany, I believe, which is where Case King is based, it is a lot more affordable. So a potential really good value slim fan. So what we'll be doing today is putting it through that full suite of tests. We'll be opening it up in a minute to see what we get in terms of accessories, and we have a whole bunch more slim fans to get through in the next couple of videos as well. You can see them all here. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and you make sure you turn on the notification button so you are notified when I upload new videos as well, because I've got a lot more content coming out here on the channel. And also don't forget to like and comment on this video as well. Have you already bought this fan? What do you think of it? Are you considering getting some slim fans for your small form factor rig? Always love hearing your comments down below. So without further ado, let's crack on with the video. So here we are doing a little bit of an unboxing of the Akasa Alucia XS12 Slim fan, and as you can see, just a standard box, and there's not that much room in there for any accessories, and that's because you're only really getting a few screws. But what we do have here are some screws for radiators. Now I believe these are the 632 screws, but they're not the M3 screws that you need for some radiators like Alpha Cools. So these are the thicker type of screws that will work with EK water blocks and that kind of thing. But if you want an Alpha Cool compatible fan screw, then you'll need to opt for something else for your slim fans. But it's nice of Akasa to actually include these radiator fans, because they're just a bit of a pain to get hold of otherwise. So other than that, very few other things worth mentioning. But I kind of like the design on this one. They've gone for the blue fan blades in this sample, but it is available in all black if that's what you want. No RGB lighting option, and a very, very different fan design to the original Akasa Slim fan. But I'm guessing that the very smooth fan blades on this one, kind of quite a bit different to other fans such as the Silverstone Air Slimmer as well. These are more akin to the original Silverstone Slim fan, which was also not a great performer. So the Akasa here doing reasonably well in some of the tests, as we'll see in a minute, but overall is a pretty middling fan, unfortunately, but it is very, very quiet. So for those of you that don't want to go through all of the data that I'm about to go through, I can fully appreciate not everybody will want to do that. I have some graphs for you here that will make your life a lot easier. So we have the overall score, which is simply me running through each graph and giving each fan a score based on where it sits in that graph. So the higher scoring overall fan here will simply have scored higher than the next best fan overall in all of the graphs. So not to say that it's brilliant in every single graph, because there might be some where it's maybe mid-tabling, but it's the best overall. So that's essentially what that graph means. And here we can see the Akasa Alucia XS Slim offering a mid-table result, somewhere around the Corsair AF120 Slim in terms of the score overall. Now, moving down to the price, there are two entries here for the Akasa, and the reason for that is because there is a very big difference between the US price and the Europe price. So I didn't really want to dissuade European users from not buying this fan. I wouldn't recommend buying it in the US, because $24 is a heck of a lot for a mid-tabling fan. But in Europe, it's only around 14 euros, and it's about £12 here in the UK. So that's a lot more affordable and a lot more competitive. Another reason why I wanted to include both prices is so we can get separate value scores for the US and Europe based or Europe bought models. So as we can see, the Europe model scores a lot higher here, and this value score is literally just the score divided by the price, or vice versa. I can't remember which way around it was, but basically the cheaper the fan is and the higher it scores, the higher it will sit in this graph. So you can have a really expensive fan, but if it scores really well, it's still probably going to sit relatively highly in this graph. Similarly, if a fan is extremely cheap but is a mid-tabling fan, it will also probably do quite well in this graph because it is value focused. So as we can see, the European bought Alucia XS Slim doing a solid mid-table result, but the US-based one obviously dropping a significant amount because of that high US price. Moving on to the data now then, and it's a somewhat disappointing showing from the Akasa Alucia XS Slim in that it doesn't produce as much airflow or more airflow than its predecessor, the Akasa Slim fan, also known as the Roswell Ultra Slim fan. So a little bit disappointing there, given that it's not matching or bettering its predecessor at specific RPMs. Now, full speed, obviously there could be different speeds going on, but if you have both fans at a specific RPM, it's performing less well in terms of generating less airflow than its predecessor, and it's a pretty low result as well, not far from bottom. Next up are the CPU temperature results, and here we have each fan strapped to a 120mm radiator, which is cooling a custom liquid cooling loop, dealing with a Core i5-10600K processor running at stock speed. So as we can see here, again, it's kind of lower table results for the Akasa Alucia XS Slim, pretty much matching where it was in terms of airflow at those speeds. Now we are moving on to the noise levels, and there's a bit of an explanation here as to why this fan isn't producing that much airflow pretty much at all speeds, and that's because it is extremely quiet. So those blades aren't really cutting into the air and generating airflow, and as such they're not generating that much noise. It was the quietest fan by far at 1000 RPM, and also at 1500 RPM. So we've got a stray result there for the Pro Limitech because it can't actually spin up to 1500 RPM, so that's why it's not included in that graph. And full speed noise, again, full speed, it's meant to be doing 2000 RPM but not generating that much airflow, which again is why it's nowhere near as loud as something like the Silverstone Air Slimmer or the Corsair AF120 Slim. So full speed, obviously not producing that much airflow either, so the fact that it's a mid-tabling result there means that it's probably not that efficient either. But if you do want a very, very quiet fan, it's worth considering if noise is generally your most important factor. Now we have the airflow to noise ratio. So this is essentially a graph or graphs showing the fans that produce more airflow for less noise. So the further down the graph you're going, the less efficient the fan is in terms of dealing with noise and airflow efficiency, producing more noise to produce less airflow essentially. So obviously you want a fan that sits at the upper end of this graph, however much you're spending, and unfortunately the Akasa Alucia doesn't really perform that well. So it is a very quiet fan, but as we've already seen, it doesn't produce much airflow either. Now, something I found really, really important when testing fans and anything that makes noise is to actually give a subjective opinion on the noise quality. Now, noise quality is different to the actual sound rating in decibels. That's just based on noise. But sound quality includes things like, is there an unpleasant drone or tone to the fan? You generally want something that is just producing a low airflow noise that is pleasant to sit next to. So the Akasa, obviously producing a fairly low noise anyway, because it's a very quiet fan at the same speeds as the other fans, because it's producing less airflow. But the benefit of producing less airflow is that the sound quality is actually very, very good. So it's not really disturbing much air. There was no tone or a drone to the fan at all. So it's very, very pleasant to sit next to, either at a middling speed at 50 dBA or at full speed. So 50 dBA, obviously noise normalized. It's generating the same amount of noise as a lot of the other fans, but it's generally very, very pleasant to sit next to as well. So the final set of results we have are the noise normalized results, and here we have Some interesting results from the Akasa. So setting the fan to 50 dBA, so all the fans here were set at 50 dBA. We have a sort of low mid-table result at 50 dBA for the Akasa Alucia of 0.98 meters a second. So again, there's not a whole heap of difference between the fans except between the very worst and very best performing ones. So a mid-table result isn't too bad of an issue here. But something that was quite surprising is that a 44 dBA, so being at the relatively quiet end, it was producing a reasonable amount of airflow at 44 dBA. So despite the fact that it was very, very quiet, at the same time, a very good noise quality as well, it was still producing a reasonable amount of airflow. But this is kind of the only time I think that the fan actually sits in the top half of the graph. All the rest of the time it's in the middle of the graph or below. So what do we make of the Akasa Alucia XS12 Slim fan then? Well, unfortunately, this fan was a bit of a disappointment, not just in overall performance, where it was lacking to most of the competition, both in terms of airflow and efficiency, but it's also worse in those things compared to Akasa's original Slim fan, which was one of the best Slim fans in my recent group tests. So it's a shame that the design seems to focus on low noise with very unobtrusive fan blades rather than airflow. Yes, it's quiet, but the airflow does leave a lot to be desired in pretty much every single situation. So unfortunately, I can't really recommend this fan unless you just want something that is super quiet all the time and you're not too fussed about airflow. As all of the graphs attest to, the airflow just isn't there with this fan. It's quiet, but it's quiet for a reason, because it's not got those fan blades digging into the air and creating lots of airflow and static pressure. That's just not here with this fan. So we've got a couple more fans to get through here over the next few days on CrazyTechLab. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Turn on those notifications when you do subscribe so you are notified when those reviews hit. Got lots more exciting stuff to come here on the channel over the next few weeks. So don't forget to tune in, and thanks for watching.